Bienvenidos to Season 3 of Humans in Accounting podcast. In a world full of AI, automation, and endless workflows, we pause for a moment to focus on the real humans behind the numbers. Founders, leaders, humans share their journey, what drives them, and the moments that shape their path. Because behind every balance sheet, there's always a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Humans in Accounting, where leaders and human share their story behind their spreadsheets. I'm Alex Roman, and this podcast is brought to you by the guys at South Offices. They're connecting talent across borders. Today, I'm super happy just to have you here on my right or on my left. Chris Williams. Chris is the owner and CEO at System6. Chris, welcome to Humans in Accounting. How are you?
Alex, my friend, I'm doing great. Super excited to be here. You and I were talking last time. I'm a little tired today. I've got a toddler and she was up all night. That's a game you know quite well these days as well. So a little tired, but always energized to talk humans and talk accounting. So excited to be here.
Yes, well, it's I know what you're feeling. I know how I feel, and yeah, this is the right podcast because we are humans. I know for a fact because we met already a few times in different events, and I also know for a fact that you're in accounting. So tell my audience. Let's go a little bit into.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your background. How you started. Tell me a little bit about your story. How you ended up in this podcast, Humans in Accounting,
absolutely.
and why not in another one?
Yeah, and it's definitely in some regards I think a different story. Primarily in that, so I'm not a classically trained accounting. I studied business and economics in college and math. And kind of my prior career before System6, I actually worked in finance, so at a bank, and then in an investing role. And after going to grad school, kind of decided I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I was at business school. A lot of my friends were doing startups, but I discovered what is becoming a much more popular path, I think, over the last 10 years or so here in the US. Instead of going to do a startup, if you want to do something entrepreneurial, you could actually go out and look for kind of an existing small business that the owner wants to retire, move on, doesn't have a son or daughter they want to give it to. And so there's kind of this whole class of folks that are now kind of looking for those businesses, trying to buy them, take over, and ultimately try to grow, kind of, take the business from 1.0 to 2.0. And so that's kind of how I got to System6. I spent about a year in 2020 and 2021 looking for kind of a professional services related business to acquire and try to grow. I looked at wealth management, I looked at accounting, I looked at CFO, some insurance related businesses, and ultimately found System6, sent a cold email to the owner, Jeremy, back in fall 2020. And 9 months later, I was fortunate to be able to buy the business from Jeremy. And then we've been on a super exciting growth journey since then, primarily through organic, just adding more clients. And then over the last 2 years, as we've scaled, we've also acquired 2 other smaller firms and kind of folded them into System6. So we'll get into all that, but yeah, that's how I got to outsourced accounting, and that's a quick summary of the last couple of years.
That's great, Chris. I'm super curious. Before pulling the trigger and buying System6, you were also looking for other options. Why you ended up? Why was System6 and not another accounting firm?
Yeah, well, I mean, first I think it starts with why accounting, and I think look, all the private equity that's come in the last couple of years, kind of validates what I think a lot of us know intuitively. These are really, really good businesses. At the end of the day, we provide a critical service to our customers, to our clients, whether it's taxes. Everybody needs to file their taxes. Everybody could use help saving money on their taxes, or where most of our business is, which is bookkeeping, payroll, bill pay, CFO. We are helping small business owners manage the day-to-day financial needs of owning and running that business. And every small business needs that. Every small business needs bookkeeping. Every small business needs to pay their bills. So hey, first of all, we are, it's an attractive industry because it's providing a critical service. There's a ton of customers out there. Every small business in the United States needs these services. There's a lot of firms out there. There's a lot of small accounting firms. So there's a lot of folks I could potentially have conversations with and acquire, and then there's other things. There's, you get more academic. There's not a bunch of machine CapEx you have to spend money on. But at the end of the day, it's a great industry because it's sticky clients on mission critical services, relatively recession resilient. And then, yeah, why System 6? So obviously there's, 50, 60,000 accounting firms in the US. I was really looking for two things. One, I wanted a modern firm. I did not kind of want to take over the modernization journey that a lot of firms are going through now, migrating to the cloud. For many smaller firms, migrating out of the office a bit. And, so I was looking for something that was kind of modern where I could more easily jump in and try to grow versus kind of jump in and have to do a couple years of like transition. So System 6 was fully remote, had been remote pre-COVID, QuickBooks Online only, no clients on desktop, like a lot to like there. And then the second thing, look, the most important thing in these businesses are the people. Like we talk all the time in System 6, people are the product. So I was looking for a business where I felt like I had a fantastic owner that I was acquiring from. The culture of the business always reflects the culture of the owner. And, I felt super fortunate to find System 6 and Jeremy, who, had really built a place that was, of course, anchored on like, we got to do kick-ass service for our clients. Their success is our success. We have to serve them with excellence. But more importantly, here at System 6, it's like we know we got to be a great place to work. If we're not, an enjoyable, flexible, well-compensating environment to our team members, they're going to leave, and then we're not going to be a good business. So, yeah, what ultimately really attracted me to System 6 was kind of the culture that had been built here that I felt like was a really good foundation to kind of build on top of.
Was there any significant change that you made 6 as far as the culture, or everything stood the same and you're super aligned with what Jeremy was building?
Yeah, I would say like the foundations are very, very much aligned. Like we want to serve our clients extremely well, but we also very much have an understanding that to do that, we need to serve our team members very well. We need to provide them flexibility. We've got a lot of team members that, don't want to work a full 40 hours, and we're okay with that. We know their parents and they want to get to soccer practice in the afternoon. So kind of this concept of like, hey, we are really serving two people, our clients and our team members. And really at the end of the day, like the team members are kind of the most important. That is very, very much true. I mean, I do think, look, we've grown a lot since, I stepped in. We went from 20 people to 65, so I think we've instilled a culture of, hey, we're a growing place. We are going to build it as we fly from time to time. Like we've definitely instilled an understanding that, yeah, sometimes you got to be a little kind of comfortable in the unknown, because when you're growing quickly, there's some unknown. And look, I think naturally, as you get bigger, like we're not trying to become super corporate and boring, but like there's more, layers now than there used to be in an org chart. There's a little bit more kind of, process and systems than there used to be. So I think for some folks, that's been a shift, and some folks like don't want to be a part of that, and that's totally fine. But our core ethos that I think really helps us win is like, we got to remember we're serving our people first and foremost. And like, I don't care if one day we're 600 people, like that's never going to change, because that's how you win in a, professional services people business.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you. It's something, actually, one of the values. I was looking at your website, and I'm pretty sure that if it's not one of the values, right? Like,
yeah,
we put first.
We put our team first is, intentionally kind of the first core value. Right underneath that is we wow our clients. Like obviously we got to do a good job for our clients, but at the end of the day, like we can use technology, we do use technology, but like, we are individuals serving individuals. And so if our individuals and our teams, we're a team serving individuals, but if our folks are not happy, in a good place, et cetera, they're not gonna be able to do good work. And so that's why ultimately we need to make sure we're putting our team first.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's super important. Let me ask you about, you mentioned you grew from being 20, now you're 65.
Yeah.
What were the I don't know, the biggest challenge there? Like just to, or maybe, yeah, I want to ask you for a challenge, and also for maybe a mistake, something that you learned basically by doing a mistake, and say, hey, look, this is what happened, and now we've realized that we got to do this other way. Well, what's the first thing that comes to
absolutely.
mind, Chris?
I mean, I think, yeah, a couple of things come to mind. I think first, just like, as you start to do things sort of faster, something that you were able to do well, now you're just trying to do it faster. Like sometimes that can just break in and of itself. Like, so we had times where, yeah, we were going from hiring one person every couple months to now we're trying to hire like three people a month for like 3 or 4 months in a row. And sometimes we just like had issues around that either, and it's not on our people leader team, or any, it's in some respects on me for maybe not resourcing us the right way along the way. But it's like, yeah, sometimes we were rushed in interviewing and ended up bringing people on board that, weren't a great fit. So I think, really like looking at our hiring needs and recognizing if we are growing so fast that we need to hire at a pace that's not comfortable, then we actually need to like slow down sales for a little bit, because the worst thing you can do is make hiring mistakes when you're already in a high growth environment, because then it's like you're having a hard time keeping up and now you made hiring mistakes. So now it's even harder like to keep up. So I'd say that's one thing. And we've done that. Like, we've slowed down sales, especially around year end. I'm at points over the last couple of years just to make sure we're not burning our people out. Like we can't be your typical accounting firm where January to April is hell. That's not living our core
Right.
values. And then I'd say the other thing that we figured out is that, you really need to understand like how are the needs of your clients evolving. And some of that maybe your clients are changing, or in our case, like we started kind of bringing on a different type of client and just making sure that the folks you're hiring, have the skill set to serve whatever that client need is.
Right.
We over time have brought on more, I would say, kind of investor backed, sophisticated clients, and just making sure, yeah, as a result, like hiring team members that have more accrual accounting experience, that have more kind of comfort in the high motion environment that some of those clients require. Yeah, just understanding how it's kind of obvious in hindsight, but like as your client base is changing, making sure that you're hiring to meet those needs.
No, absolutely. It does make sense. What you said at the beginning about sales. Sometimes, I mean, it's completely true, but sometimes I feel like people need just to make that mistake by
Yeah.
learning like with their own experience, or hopefully maybe someone in the future watching this episode that's gonna
Yeah.
say, "Hey, Chris is absolutely right," and this, if we are ever at that decision, maybe we need just to slow ourselves and make
Yeah.
sure that we find someone that it's gonna be aligned with our core values, and someone that it's gonna feel happy working with us, and I'm gonna feel happy working with them.
Yeah. And look, I think anyone who's entrepreneurial kind of, yeah, you inherently have to have a lot of confidence, if not blind confidence in some regards, to kind of decide to go do your own thing. So yeah, like I had definitely heard the advice of like, be careful. Not every client's a good fit, but I definitely, there were times where I was like, oh no, we're different. Like our team can absolutely handle this, like this client isn't going to be a pain in the butt. And I was wrong, for sure at times. And I think, yeah, whether it's, humility or just you have to learn through experience, I think it can be really hard to, yeah, follow the advice from the outside until you've been through it yourself a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you gotta say no. You need just to not every client. It's a good fit, but yes, sometimes you end up learning when you have that experience and your own. But well, hopefully, again, the objective here is just to inspire listeners in the future. I'm gonna change for the following 95 seconds, and I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you a question that has nothing to do. It has more to do with me. I'm a foodie. I enjoy eating good food. And my question to you, Chris, is what's your favorite food?
So because you said you're a foodie, the true answer is like, it is really hard to beat for me a good, like slightly soft, slightly warm chocolate chip cookie. Like it needs to be of a certain size, not, I'm not talking like a little tiny one, but it's like, you know, yeah, if there's a chocolate chip cookie on the menu at a restaurant, I'm like absolutely ordering that. Yeah, it's we have a grocery store near us that makes, I don't know what they put in them, but they're just like thick level of chewiness. So, that's like truly, that's my favorite dessert. That's the thing that comes to mind first. In terms of, maybe something a little bit more mature and like, an entree or
Cool.
something. I have a, like, when done right, a spicy pasta dish for me is probably like my, whether it's, they've got some sausage in there that's got some spice, or somehow other, spices weaved in there other. another way, like some sort of, red sauce, spicy penne alla vodka or whatever it may be, that like when I see that on a menu at a restaurant, that's getting ordered. I love, a good
Okay.
pasta dish. Yeah.
Right. However, since I am making the rules here, I'm gonna just count the chocolate cookie, and I love that answer because it was, as you said, like the first thing that came to
Yeah.
your mind. And I've been interviewing, I don't know, over 60 humans in accounting last few years, and you're the first one who said chocolate cookie, and I celebrate that. So
I,
at least we're gonna have one vote for a chocolate cookie.
I don't know if that says something about my food palate or my food maturity, or maybe it just means some people are not being
No,
honest. Have you gotten ice cream?
no, 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 no,
People
no,
need,
no ice
people need
cream.
to, you might need to challenge your audience. There's got to be some more dessert lovers out there.
Yeah, but I think that maybe people are not thinking outside because my question is always the same. What's their favorite food?
I mean,
And
chocolate
as long
cookie
as
is
it's a
food,
food,
right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. So everyone is telling me like in Spanish that we have this proverb, this thing that I don't know the translation, but it says that as far as tastes, there's not. I am doing like the exact translation,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
maybe there's another one. But thank you. So it says that as far as tastes, there's nothing written, meaning
Yeah,
like
to
you
you.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there any translation for that in
Yeah.
English?
I mean, maybe not on taste, but I think that like, you hear a lot, to each their own is a phrase, and certainly in the English language of like, yeah, some people hate cookies, some people like cookies, but it's, like that's
Exactly, exactly.
power of being human. Like you get to, you kind of get to make your own decisions.
Exactly. So yeah, no, chocolate cookie has
Good.
one
All
vote,
right.
and thank you for answering me that one, Chris. Let's go back. I asked you for a mistake, something that you've learned. Now let me ask you on the other side. What's in this year's, since you're part of System 6? What's a major or a big achievement, a milestone? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like the thing I'm most proud of is, for our team members that have really kind of wanted to lean into this evolution journey. And look, we have some folks that are like, hey, I love kind of the seat I'm in and I don't, I just want to stay there. And like, we totally support that. But, we've got some folks that have been in 3-4 years, promoted from bookkeeper all the way to managing a team or, promoted from, hey, I was working part time and now I enjoy my job so much that I want to work full time. Like anytime I see kind of, that our growth environment has enabled someone to, kind of advance in their career or also just like find more enjoyment. Like I especially love that when folks are like, hey, I want to go full time, even though I started part time. Like to me, that shows me that, hey, you must enjoy what you're doing. And I'm super proud of that because I know, like at the end of the day, that's allowing us to make an impact on our team members. I mean, we're not handing out, lottery tickets, but hey, if we
Right.
can help get promoted a little bit and have more fulfillment and joy in their career, make some more money along the way, like that's if we're trying to serve our people, that's serving our people. So, there's kind of lots of examples of folks that have kind of expanded their careers here, and that's what I'm most proud of.
That's I love that answer. It's super aligned with with your first value at System 6. So that makes perfect sense. I wanted just to ask you. You mentioned your clients. You mentioned that you work a lot with small businesses. Do you have like a specific niche, a specific industry that you
Yeah.
work with?
So for us, and there's some milestones in here too. We've expanded, especially over the last 12, 15 months. We've added a couple new service lines. The short answer to your question is we don't really have what I would say is an industry niche. If you looked at our revenue, 400 plus or minus clients now, they're, kind of the industries that you would expect are the biggest niches: home services, professional services. Like that's the majority of, kind of $2 to $20 million revenue businesses in the US. They're 10 or 15% each. We got, a bunch of medical practices. But our what I would say has become a big part of our growth, and it's kind of our growth niche in a way, like where most of our growth is coming from, is not the industry, but kind of the business owner profile. So basically, the majority of our new clients the last couple of years have been basically somebody who just bought a business. So maybe it's an individual kind of like myself who just bought a business, or maybe it's a small investment group that's buying multiple businesses in the same industry, but they all kind of have the same theme, which is, I guess, what a niche is, which is, hey, we just bought this business and either the prior accountant is leaving because they were the owner, or it's on QuickBooks Desktop. We need to bring it to the 21st century, or for some of our investor groups, it's on cash accounting. We need to move it to accrual accounting. But basically, 75% of the new business we get every year at this point is some version of, hey, we just bought this business. We kind of need to upgrade their finance function. And so different industries, but, a niche in that they all are kind of, to some extent, going through the same pain points. How do I convert?
Right. I think that this is, I mean, as you said, they're from different industries, but the fact that they're all like a business that were recently acquired, I think that makes them a niche. And do you do I'm curious, like a marketing specifically targeting those type of clients?
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about it, like, what is the benefit of having a niche, as a service business? It's two things. It's one, it's like, the kind of the marketing efficiencies that happen with that. You get the referral chamber going, you get the, there's conferences you can target. And then the second side of it is like service, which is like, hey, if we were only serving, breweries or something, we would have like a super standardized chart of accounts and a super standardized, fancy report that shows comps to, industry averages. I think we do realize the benefit of a niche somewhat on the service side, because we know how to set these clients up. We know we're really good at QuickBooks conversions. We're really good at setting up ramp, et cetera, and kind of helping somebody the first couple of months after they bought a business. But then, we absolutely do market to the acquisition ecosystem. And that's, I think, where it's really paid off for us. So it's conferences, it's podcasts that we advertise on, it's podcasts that we try to get on. It's content that I'm writing. It's, I have a lot of folks that I know just through my network, kind of friends in private equity are leaving to go do something entrepreneurial. So we kind of hang out in those spaces as much as we can. And we actually just hired our first sort of more junior SDR, sales support resource. He's awesome. And he's helping kind of free up our head of sales so that we can start to actually do outbound kind of into this vertical. Like, we've got a great story because we serve this vertical of recently bought businesses. Like, let's go find the folks that are buying them and make sure we're reaching out to them, not just kind of waiting for them to come to us.
That's great. That's incredible. And again, I never heard, a niche like this one. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. And maybe, there's a random Michael out there who has recently bought a business who is listening this while they're driving, and now they want to just talk with you. So hopefully, Michael, just reach out to Chris. I'll leave the information of Chris once we finish. Last one, just to wrap up the episode. I usually ask, what's a good advice? You already mentioned a few really good advices that you got from your experience, but what's a good advice that maybe you can tell someone who's? I usually ask this question, like, if you're trying just to start your own accounting firm, but in your case, I'll ask you, what's a good advice for someone thinking of acquiring an accounting firm now in 2026?
Yeah, I think I'll answer that, and I think I can also give some broader advice, and some of it ties back to marketing. But I think on firm acquisition, and I think this even applies beyond even just accounting. I mean, look, there's the obvious stuff, like you got to do your financial diligence. I think in accounting acquisition, probably the most important thing you really need to understand is the owner who's going to presumably leave after 1 or 2 years. How important are they to both the client, but also also not just the client relationships, but the team relationships? I mean, sometimes you have a small firm where like this owner's been there for 30 years and those 10 employees are so loyal to this person that, even if you're a good person coming in after them, like some of the employees are going to maybe leave because they were close to retirement. So you really got to understand, there's risk in professional services that the business is really just tied to the owner. And if they're leaving after transaction, you're going to have a lot of issues. I would also say, and I give this advice broadly to business acquisitions, really think about how you want to spend your time after you've bought the business. Like, do you want to be in growth mode where you're out doing business development, going to conferences, or Are you maybe more of an operations person where you do want to like try to modernize a business or maybe rejigger kind of how the workflows work? Have a really good understanding of how you want to spend your time, like where you get your energy from, and make sure what you're buying reflects that. Cause like I always knew I wanted to be growth, kind of salesy, try and push this thing forward. And so if I had bought I paid more sort of for System 6 because it was worth more because it was running operationally well. If I had bought a more old school firm, sure, I could have paid less. On paper, that might look better, but I would have been spending a year doing like process transformation that I would suck at because I'm not energized by it. So really know what like you're energized by, where you want to spend your time, and make sure the firm reflects that. And then the other thing I'd quickly say is like, whether you're buying an accounting firm or starting an accounting firm or doing anything else, I think that like it's really important to get yourself out there earlier than maybe it feels like you should from a sales and marketing perspective. It's like we were pretty small when I bought System 6. There was plenty to do in the business, just in terms of, maybe getting ready for growth. But I kind of just started going to conferences right away. And I think that kind of paid off because it's like, then by the time we got a little bit bigger, year 2 or year 3, like the snowball was kind of already running. And
right.
It feels, sometimes it feels when you're smaller, like you don't have time to go do sort of the just like blind business development, go to a conference and hope it works. And you might not get anybody from that conference for 2 years, but you kind of just need to start it and get out there.
That's great. That's solid advice. Talking about conferences, are you going to go to Intuit Connect?
I will probably be at Intuit Connect, but like if you look at my travel or us as a firm, we go to more customer conferences than we do accounting conferences. Right?
No, and it makes perfect sense. I was just asking because that's my next conference, and I want to share like a chocolate cookie with you.
I will probably be in Vegas. Intuit, if you're listening, if you want to give me a free ticket, I'd love that. I've spoken in years past and just didn't choose to speak this year, and now I'm like, oh, well, that means I have to pay for the hotel and pay for the conference, et cetera. But look, I mean, I will say, now that we are bigger, part of our growth story moving forward is acquiring other kind of smaller remote businesses, kind of sub 3 million of revenue. We've done 2 of those acquisitions over the last 18 months. We're kind of working on another one right now. So I will end up going ultimately because it's good for me to be sort of staying in front of other firm owners, to be meeting other kind of new firm owners, because we, as we continue to grow, we want to be known as a great place to work, but also like as a great place if you want to move on from your firm, like as a great place to kind of send your firm to, where your team and your clients will be taken care of. We're not a private equity like roll up where we're like, jamming everybody together and laying people off. It's like, we're trying to grow with pace, but also, we're not trying to grow 5% a year. Like it's more than that, but we want to be a good home for firms that are maybe looking to go through an ownership change.
That's great to hear. So, well, again, Intuit, if you're listening, Chris will accept a free ticket. And let's go back to that Michael that in the future is driving his car, listening to this. What's the best way that Michael has just to reach out to you, since he just recently bought this business?
Super easy. You can go to our website, System 6. It's spelled out, SIX.com. You can fill out a form or just email us at hello@system6.com. I'm on that distribution. I'll look at it. I'll see it. I'll make sure it gets to the right person. My personal email is also chris@system6.com. Don't DM me on LinkedIn because I get a lot of crap there. But otherwise, we try to be really available. So reach out to us and you'll find us one way or another.
That's great. When we upload this episode, I'll make sure just to tag you and leave your website on all the contact information so that people in the future can reach out. Chris, it was great to have you in Humans in Accounting. Thank you so much for your time. And I guess I'll see you in a few months and into it.
See you on the dance floor in Vegas. Thanks, Alex. It was great to spend some time together.
Likewise. Thank you.